So friends, Lamar Airways Shopping Center, you've probably heard of it, in Elvis folklore. It is still here, which is incredible. On September the 9th, 1954, this was Cat's Drugs, and Elvis played here with Bill and Scotty on a stage that was actually not set up on this side. You see there's a breezeway going through that you can walk through. It was on the back side of Cat's. There was a stage back there, and Elvis played the grand opening. We're gonna go back there and take a look. Another little tidbit, Schomburg's department store was right here, and an eventual Memphis Mafia member, Marty worked there that day. And he tells that Cat's was on this side of the breezeway, Schomburg's was on this side, and he remembers that day. So Cat's was right here. We're gonna go to the other side on the Airways side. The reason this is called Lamar Airways is this is where those two roads come together. The road that you see back there, cars passing if they do, is Airways, and this is Lamar side. So we're gonna go to the other side where the stage would have been set up. And it's still a bustling mall, outdoor mall, but this was, you know, the 50s was the beginning of this kind of shopping experience with malls and that kind of stuff. This right here was the beginning of that kind of shopping experience, and Elvis played here for the grand opening. They also had a giant Indian here for the opening. This was a big day, this day. So I'll dig into it a little bit and show you some other stuff, but let's go to the other side and see what the stage looks like. And then you can see it's Lamar Airways. This is Lamar side. So we're gonna go over to the Airways side. Stay tuned, friends. So before we go over there, I wanted to show you, this is where the Cats would have been. And if you notice, the double poles right there are still there, just like they were back then. So I'm gonna verify the address, but it says 2256. So I'm gonna verify that in the book. So I got this out of the Yellow Pages, and you can see Cat's Drugs is 2256, which is what it says on the front of the Save-A-Lot. And Schomburg's is 2252, and you can see there's no 2254, so it actually, I think it skipped one because of the open space between them. So Schomburg's was on the left of the breezeway, Cat's was on the right. Oakley Motor Company was across the street, because it is an odd number. And I'm reminding you of where Schomburg's was because that's where Marty worked, and Marty attended the concert that night, as well as a couple of other famous people, or a couple of people that turned out to be famous. They were not famous at the time. So one of them is a guy that you probably don't know his name, but he played for the Box Tops. His name is John Evans. John was in the band that played The Letter. You know the song, "My baby wrote me a letter." Incidentally, he also made the guitar that Steve Cropper played in the prison scene on the Blues Brothers movie. Ironically, they played Jailhouse Rock, which hadn't come out yet when young Mr. Evans saw Elvis at Lamar Airways. And another person was Johnny Cash. This photograph was taken August the 7th, 1954. He saw Elvis September the 9th, 1954. So a month and 2 days later, after this photograph was taken, on their wedding day in San Antonio, Texas, he saw a young Elvis Presley along with Bill Black and Scotty Moore behind the Lamar Airways. So on a little aside, Johnny Cash, on the day that Elvis met Scotty Moore and Bill Black, July the 4th, 1954, got out of the military and traveled back to Arkansas to his family's home, saw Vivian. They ended up going back to San Antonio, which is where she was from, and marrying the next month on the 7th. So that would have been July the 4th, then August the 7th, and then September the 9th, they saw Elvis behind Lamar Airways. So that's a little bit of who was doing what at the same time. And Johnny said that him and Vivian went up to Elvis and spoke to him after the show, and he invited them to his next show at the Eagle's Nest, which they did attend. And he recalled it very vividly of how good Elvis was at that next show. And, of course, you know the rest of it, that Johnny went on to work at Sun along with Elvis and other people. Now, Sleepy-Eyed John is who set this whole thing up. And Johnny Cash even said that Sleepy-Eyed John was just as important as Dewey Phillips getting Sun Records out. But, you know, what's unusual is I cannot find a photograph of Sleepy-Eyed John. But you see him at the very bottom right here, the Eagle's Nest Band, Elvis Presley recording artist. And I also have a newspaper clipping right here that I'm going to show you. And this is an example of Sleepy-Eyed John's Eagle's Nest. And we've talked about Clearpool before. I did a video on that. And you can see in person Elvis Presley and Tiny Dixon's band. So this is where Johnny Cash would have gone to see Elvis again, along with his wife. So now that you've heard of some famous people before they were famous seeing Elvis, let's tighten up and get on around back and take a look. So this is Park Avenue on the end down here. And then this is going to be Airways on the back. So this is the back side. It looks like I'm finally going to be able to get around here. Wow, it was a challenge. You have to go all the way around to get around here because they've built a bunch of other stuff. But the stage was up in here. So let's stop and take a look. So this was the back of Cat's Drugs. So I would expect the stage to be somewhere in that area right in there, somewhere right around in here. Because this building that you see sticking out with the door, now you got to consider that that was, heck, 60 years ago plus. But this is it. And you can see that it's dentist office, vision centers, clubs, and you can see through. So I'm sure that Elvis would have walked through that little breezeway. It was here, but the stage was actually set up back here. So this is the newspaper advertisement for that weekend. You see it says Cat's Super Drugstore Grand Opening Sale. Prices good through Thursday. This is Elvis and Scotty and Bill that night, which is pretty interesting. This next photograph is actually Elvis that night, but where you see it at is not where it was taken at. This is a photoshopped photograph of Elvis in front of Memphis Recording Service. And now look, same photograph, but this is Elvis behind Cat's right there. That is a brick wall that I believe that is over on the left-hand side, but it could be the one that's directly behind, but I believe this was further over to the left. So this proves how easy it is to be fooled by photographs and Photoshop things. Look very real. And last but not least, this is a photograph of a young Elvis thinking about his future. You got to keep in mind that this concert, this night, was almost exactly 2 months from the release date of That's All Right Mama. So he was just brand new, people knowing who he was and what he did. It had just been released literally almost exactly to the day 2 months before. So now you know a little bit more of the Elvis puzzle. Happened right here, friends. Elvis played here September the 9th, 1954 on a stage with Bill and Scotty. Before anybody really knew, they knew a little bit, but he wasn't superstar status yet. But this was part of the humble beginnings. He tightened up and played right here behind Cats. Yes, he did. And he was a cool cat, and he was the hillbilly cat. So this is an overview of the site, and this is more modern, of course. As you can see, there's, some more modern things there, but just a hair to the right of the middle, you see where it says Save-A-Lot, and that is where the Cat's Drugstore was. Across the breezeway, which would be above this, is where Schomburg's was. So to the back of the Save-A-Lot there in the parking lot is where the stage would have been set up. And to give you an idea about why they call it Lamar Airways, on the left, if you see number 78 on that road, that is Lamar. To the right, you see 277, that is Airways. Park Avenue crosses it, so that's why they call it Lamar Airways. It's kind of in the middle of the V right there. And that checkers that you see at the top right where the stoplight is right there under Park Avenue was actually run by Chubby. And this is Airways and Progress, where this happened at.